Welcome back to our tour through the Gospel of Matthew. I thank you for your support in watching this video. We are at Matthew chapter 16, and we will be reading from verses 8 to 12, and I'm going to be reading out of the New International Version. Chapter 16 and verse 8. Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked, "You of little faith, why are you talking about yourselves about having no bread? Do you still not understand? Don't you remember the 5 loaves for the 5,000 and how many basketfuls you gathered? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000 and how many baskets you gathered? How is it you don't understand that I'm not talking to you about bread? Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and the Sadducees." Then they understood that he was not telling them to be on guard against the yeast used in bread, but against the teaching of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. When a person accepts Jesus as his or her personal Savior, the next thing we ask of that person is that he or she makes a commitment to a church. We understand that no person can stay in the faith and not have support in that choice. It is our personal faith experience, and it has to be from us, but the reality is it is not an individual experience. So we know that that person must be immersed into the life of the church. In and through the church, that person can be nurtured and grounded in the faith. In and through the church, that person can find his or her place of service and ministry. And in the process, can grow and develop in the faith. This is the good side of the church. Then there is this passage that points to the dark side of the church. The disciples have been having a discussion about the fact that they forgot to bring bread with them. Somebody in the group failed to stop and pick up a couple of loaves of Wonder Bread before they got into the boat. Now they were trying to figure out how to make sandwiches without it. Yes, they had a jar of Skippy peanut butter or Jiffy or Peter Pan, but no bread to make their sandwiches. This led Jesus to use it as a teachable moment, and then he said something that went right over their heads. He was using the discussion of bread to talk of yeast. Yeast in the ancient world seems unbalanced to be something that was used to carry a negative connotation. The majority of uses would mean something negative. So Jesus was using the image of yeast to speak of the perniciousness and perversity of the religious leaders' teaching. Jesus was saying to the disciples, do not adhere to their teaching, for it will destroy you. Here is a paradox that is before us. If you are to grow and develop in faith, it will only be the case as you immerse yourself in the life of the church. The religious leaders that Jesus referred to were not, in our terminology, all clergy. So it was not the case that we are simply talking about or dealing with the corruption of clerical leadership. We are saying that Jesus was warning his disciples to be careful, for there were those who style themselves as faith leaders who were really destructive to the faith. The church is the place to be nurtured and developed in the faith. And it is the place where at times the leadership of it is corrosive when it comes to living out the faith. Part of the growth of the disciple in every age is to learn to live in the church as it is found. Now, I'm not saying we turn a blind eye to what is wrong in the church. Remember, Jesus was not saying, to these people in the boat, ignore the fact that these people were failing in following through on their beliefs. The institutional church ceases to be a church when people ignore sin in its midst. The sins of disobedience, unfaithfulness, the lust for power, and the holding of grudges, the misuse of church office, where they are used for personal aggrandizement, and so on. We have to learn to live in what is a human institution with all the failings that our humanity bring to it. There is no perfect church. The key will be to see that the church is what the church is or is not. Is not an excuse for my failure to live out the faith as God has called me to. Yes, the church is imperfect and fails to uphold the ideals that it should. And funny thing about that, it sounds a lot like me. But that is what being a part of the church is about. It is to adjust the direction that our church is going.